welcome into First Take. Appreciate you hanging with us, both your boys, in the house today in good old Bristol, Connecticut. Alongside Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith, I'm Wait, Karam.
In the flesh?
I did tell you I would.
Wait, that's not virtual?
No, it's real.
Skip Bayless, I would like you to know, since you're always complaining that I'm going because you miss me so much. I have been
Sometimes he does.
I have been here 7 of the last 8 days.
Wow.
In studio.
That's a record.
You understand?
You know what? That's
I just want you to know that. I just want you to know, and I'm going to be here tomorrow too.
CT's growing on you.
Yeah.
About that. So
that's sort of like the NFL's record number of penalties so far through 3 games.
Which we'll get into. That's
it's
hate on me all you want.
I got to shake your hand.
I like the pie. I could swear a little pop there.
Shit, it's me. I keep trying to tell y'all.
Yeah.
GQ's going to come call him eventually.
Don't hold your breath.
Kobe, D, Wade, LeBron. I'm tired of them cats thinking they dress better than me. I'm coming. This is just now. Wait till you see the upgrade of the wardrobe come NBA season. I'm just warning y'all. I'm just warning y'all.
Nervous.
I can wait for that.
Just trying to say. Just trying to say.
All right, let's work, guys. Coming up, NFL power rankings are out, and Skip has a big problem with one of them. We'll get into that. And the Steelers, unfortunately, without Big Ben. So what should we expect from Michael Vick moving forward? Obviously, they play Thursday night. But first, yesterday, we discussed Derrick Rose's comments at Media Day, and now he is back in the news. Unfortunately, due to injury, Rose was struck in the face by an elbow during Tuesday's practice. He was taken by the Bulls medical staff to Rush University Medical Center for testing and evaluation, which determined he sustained a left orbital fracture. After consultation with several specialists, it has been determined that he will require a surgical procedure, which will take place tomorrow at Rush. Now, after the procedure, a timetable for return to play will be determined. Stephen A., what is your reaction to all this? The man's been in the news all week.
Skip Bayless, I am not laughing in any way because this man is injured, because I think the NBA is great when Derrick Rose is healthy and therefore great. Please don't get me wrong. Remember last year, he was my candidate for either comeback player of the year or league MVP or both because of what I knew he could bring. But I can't even put into words how floored I was last night when I'm sitting there and I'm driving home and the news came down that Derrick Rose, I'm talking about fresh off our discussion yesterday about him and how he needs to make sure that he stops saying the things that he says, looking forward to his contract from 2 years from now, only playing 32% of the season over the last 4 years, playing 100 out of 312 games. He needs to keep quiet. And then in the midst of him saying all of that, or in the immediate aftermath of it, the very first practice after media day, this dude fractures his orbital bone in his left eye. I could not believe what I read. I said, you can't make this up. You just can't make this up. And here's what it comes down to. He obviously is going to miss additional games. But to make matters worse, could y'all do me a favor, please? The one and only Sarah Spain for ESPN. She works in Chicago. She works for ESPNW, outstanding columnist. She does good work for us on ESPN Radio here. She's based out of Chicago. She's there all the time. Listen to what this lovely lady had to say about Derrick Rose's injury. Could you play that for our audience, please?
Coming up to our last straw here, where we're having trouble defending him, not just because of the latest injury, which by all accounts is a total accident and not his fault in any way, and you got to feel bad for him for it, but because it just adds onto this pile that's getting bigger and bigger of just, okay, enough now, especially from a guy who just gave us some really bad optics, talking about free agency 2 years in advance when he just made $280 million a couple years ago between his NBA and his Adidas. So, I mean, the patience is running so thin here in Chicago for our hometown boy. Could be out anywhere from 5 to 28 games, but with Derrick Rose, could be all season. Who knows? You know, he wants to have his orbital bone looking just right when he goes to his son's graduation in 18 years.
There you go. Because that last line was all I was looking for. They didn't need to play the tape that long, but that's beside the point. I was just looking for the last.
You should have instructed them better.
I did instruct them, but that's okay.
I didn't know that was coming. That was a nice surprise.
I was looking for the last line. And the last line is what she said best. It could be anywhere from 5 to 28 games, but with Derrick Rose, it could be the entire season because obviously he wants to make sure his eye's okay for his son's graduation 18 years from now. That was Sarah Spain saying that. But there there's no question that that mirrors what Chicago feels about him right now. At this juncture, here's the point that I made yesterday, Skip. If you're the Chicago Bulls, you might need to trade this dude. You may be looking to trade this dude. It's going to be hard to get rid of him with the numbers that he's getting paid, combined with the level of the level of durability that he has had. But now that this latest injury comes up, what makes it even worse, if you wanted to trade him, the likelihood is you can't, even more so now than what I said yesterday. So in less than 24 hours, something else has happened with Derrick Rose. I don't know whether to shake my head and feel sorry for him or to feel even more sorry for the city of Chicago. This is unreal.
I feel sorry for both.
It really is.
I am so with you on this, because when I heard this yesterday, my first thought was this would make a good Saturday Night Live routine, right? That if they wanted to skewer this, parody this, that's how they would do it, right? It's almost like a good bad story in the like a fictional story in The Onion, you know, something that would be sarcastically done. So I'm going to just throw this out there. This was the opening day of camp. Just a drill.
Of camp.
Not the season. Okay, this is just something. You're doing your first drills of the year, okay? And you still have a month to go before the first regular season game. And you take an elbow to the face, okay? It wasn't, fortunately, a knee. It wasn't an Achilles tendon. It wasn't anything terrible. And speaking of sound bites, I'm not going to call for this, but our Michael Wilbon, who grew up in the city of Chicago, who loves him some Derrick Rose.
Yes, he does.
He was on 6 o'clock Sports Center by cell phone, just a quick chime in on this. And he said he's not worried about it because it wasn't in the top 5 of Derrick Rose injuries. This doesn't even make the top 5, right?
Right.
Okay, so he's saying, well, he'll be back pretty soon, even if he has to wear a mask. It was interesting to me that Taj Gibson, and I think we would both agree, he's a tough guy.
He's a tough guy.
Right?
Yes, he is.
He did not shy away from indicating that it was probably his elbow that caught D. Rose in the face. You don't think that team was playing pretty physically in the opening day of camp drill in ways, you know, let's toughen everybody up, including our best player, our leader, Derrick Rose. So they're going at it on the first day of camp, right? Well, and I'm not saying it was intentional. I'm just saying they were playing physical basketball right out of the box, because they're going to say, we need to get back to being a tough guy team, even with Derrick. Because with Derrick, sometimes they lose some of their toughness. Is that fair to say?
I don't know if that's what it is. I think, Skip, it's the fact that Tom Thibodeau is no longer there, and you want to make sure to remind folks that from a positive perspective, the culture will remain the same. We won't lose our identity as rough, rugged defenders because Fred Hoiberg is here instead of Tom Thibodeau. Okay,
I'm with you on that, but that was intriguing to me. And now I'm going to raise this point, having covered many NFL teams, and back to my days, 70s and 80s. The operative word in NFL locker rooms for a Derrick Rose was the word brittle. Is it possible to say he's just brittle? Like he just gets hurt all the time? Like some guys just keep getting hurt for no apparent reason. It doesn't follow any pattern. They just get hurt. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say, but may I elaborate on your point? People, as much as they don't like the fact that he's brittle because they want to see him out there playing, that is not what's feeding the swelling level of animosity. The swelling level of animosity aimed in Derrick Rose's direction is due in large part to his comments being so ultra concerned about his finances. And Mike Golick on Mike and Mike this morning made a very valid point when he highlights how every player is concerned about their money. But he also alluded to the fact that there's nothing wrong with it. You just shouldn't say it. I'm going to go a step further. I don't know a player that is not concerned about their money. He's absolutely right about that. But I also know many players who are equally concerned about their playing ability and their level of production as opposed to just their money. And in the case of Derrick Rose, because of what he continues to allude to while under contract, while getting paid, knowing that he's only played 32% of the games, which means he's only fulfilled 32% of his responsibilities, the fact that he can come out and say what he says and then the injuries continue to pile up. No one is having sympathy for him anymore. They're just saying, here we go again, because he seems perfectly content with being focused on getting his money as opposed to being focused on playing. That's the impression.
Okay. Now, remember, I'll remind you once again, we talked about this yesterday. I did serve my time in Chicago. I was a columnist for Chicago Tribune. I still have some very close friends there. And I told you yesterday, they are already done with Derrick Rose. When I talked to them yesterday about this story, they just shrug and say, what else is new? What, like this is business as usual for the Chicago Bulls. They've already cut bait emotionally with Derrick Rose, their native son, the guy who grew up in Chicago.
Right.
Okay, so I'm looking at the bigger picture here, and it's not that Derrick Rose gets hurt to them. It's how long it takes him to come back from all these injuries, because they think he's using them as a crutch, so to speak, to take even more time off where he just doesn't have to live up to his contract because he's got a free pass because he's had a meniscus surgery. And I've told you this 100 times on the show. I've had 3 meniscus surgeries. They're arthroscopic. They're not a big deal. You can bounce back. I don't care. I can go running on concrete within 3 weeks. Trust me. No, well, I'm just telling you the God's truth.
You.
It's not that big a deal if you're willing to do the rehab right out of the box. Get on that exercise bike the first night and start pedaling. You can come back. And for Derrick Rose to say, I don't know, I need 3 or 4 more months, it's bogus. I'm not buying it. So now the scrutiny and the pressure is going to be extreme on Derrick Rose, because on October 27th, they played the Cleveland Cavaliers at the house that Michael Jordan built as a home game. Their home opener is against LeBron James, Cleveland Cavaliers. He should be ready to go for that because he needs to put the mask on. The way LeBron has put the mask on, the way Westbrook put the mask on last year, and we know all the way back to Rip Hamilton and Amari Stoudemire. Lots of very good players have worn masks for entire seasons. Some of them, like Rip, decided he couldn't go without his mask, so he wore it even though he was completely healed. So I want to see Derrick Rose, as do Bulls fans, Derrick Rose in a mask on October 27th on opening night. Is that fair?
That is more than fair. I'm not going to sit there. I think it's more than fair, assuming he can play. And obviously, you can put the mask on. You can go out there and play. If the doctors clear him to play, you can do that. Let me say this to you. May 14th. Thursday, May 14th, 2015 was the Bulls' last game. It's when the Cleveland Cavaliers closed them out that night without the services of Kyrie. Kyrie Irving actually did play that game, but he only played about 12 minutes, shot 2 of 2 from the field. Okay.